This is Paulo, second receiver, floating pass, Ferguson! Oh, this is a photo finish. Cam's got no one to pass it to, he goes for himself. Cheekham's going to win the game, is he? It's the most miraculous 20 seconds of football we've seen. Oh, please give it.
Yo, what is up? What is up, gang? Welcome back to Avry Sports Show, doing one of my first ever Zoom calls with our old friend in England, Sandy Shipley, talking little rugby league. As many of you know, we're both big into Super League. And of course, earlier this year, the coronavirus pandemic meant all sports went bye-bye for quite some time. But one sport has come back, rugby league has come back down under in Australia in the form of the NRL. They're in the middle of round 4, and they came back playing no fans, and it's gone over well because it's one of the few sports on TV. And one of the big things they've done is they've targeted NRL fans who are in Europe and in North America. So Sandy, got to ask you, what has it been like, I guess, going from having no Super League to now getting involved with NRL and becoming a big NRL fan?
I must admit, when all sports stopped, I thought, oh my God, what am I doing with my time? Because you don't realize how much sport occupies your life. So even though I've got 3 kids, I had quite a few hours spare during the day. So I'm really, really glad that the NRL are restarting. And it actually has given me, it was a perfect opportunity for me to learn about this new league that, you know, you and I have been focusing a lot on Super League and the Championship and the RFL, because obviously that's where Toronto is. And this opportunity came that I thought, you know what, I'm going to really try to learn about this league that people talk about and say how great it is. It's been a really interesting 9 weeks of looking at old games, you know, some highlights, some full games, to try to make myself understand a little bit about what it is, that when it did restart, I had a little bit more context to what I was watching. So yeah, I've been keeping busy.
You know, being really, I've had one eye on it in the corner for the past couple of years, but this is really the first time I've really, truly gone head into NRL. And I know we were talking about the teams we started following, and before I will get into a little further, one thing that people may not know is that in NRL, unlike Super League, there's a lot of teams in one city, in the former Sydney. There's a lot of teams in one city. And there's 16 teams total. So I want to ask you, what team did you follow, Sandy?
It was quite a difficult choice. I mean, initially when I contacted a lot of NRL fans on social media, on Facebook, and I said, look, I'm a Canadian Rugby League fan. And I want to know, you know, you need to convince me why I should go for your team, because I really had no, you know, links to anything. So a lot of British people that I've spoken to chose a team based on maybe an English player playing there or their grandparents. There's always some sort of connection to a team. Yes. So obviously we can't do that because there's no Canadian players in the NRL. So that kind of went. And I'm still new to the sport in comparison to many other people. So I had no personal things to connect to. So after watching over 100 games over the last 9 weeks, some full, some highlights, I ended up deciding, you know what, I'm going to go for my favorite color, something that I could wear, and it's quite slimming, so black. So that kind of tailored it down. So then I thought, I need something a logo that I can wear. Again, so I chose the Panthers. And it's kind of like a Wolfpack black, you know, but I literally don't have it. It was really hard, and I respected every fan and their passion for their team. But I ended up just going forward, you know what, I'm just going to go for my favorite color, and ended up being the Panthers. So what about you? Come on.
Well, some might say that my choice is a bit of a cop-out because they've done really well historically. But as someone, I'm like you, I watched a lot of highlights, watched games, but I also dove in deep in learning about the history of NRL and the New South Wales Rugby League and the whole Super League Wars thing. And what I felt fascinating was that there was one team that was thrown out of the competition years ago to create NRL. And my thing is like, wow, you threw out your greatest team to condense your own league. So I felt like, wow, like that's kind of a harsh move. So my team was South Sydney, because I feel like, how in the world do you get rid of your best team in league history and try and make it smaller? So I'm kind of like on the side of like, I want to see these guys get back everybody else for being tossed out of their own league. That's my logic in that.
I mean, that is quite an impressive story. I mean, and the thing is, every team that I was reading had interesting stories, the ones that merged into one, and I can never see that happening in the UK. I mean, the idea of having two teams where they're chalk and cheese fan base, and it would be interesting if they try. I don't know if they have tried to do that in the UK, but I would get a bowl of popcorn and just watch from afar. But no, so when I did the math, because I was learning a lot from fans, the Cronulla fans, the Storm fans, everyone's been so nice in answering so many of my questions for me to understand. I couldn't visualize what they were trying to say sometimes in terms of history, the rivalry, and so on. So I spent 5 hours making this map because I want to kind of visually see. Being dyslexic, I'm very much a visual person. Like, it just makes sense to me after. So I was getting all the teams into where I think, because I'm telling you, if I ever go to Australia, I am going to get lost. It is just so complicated. Right? How things are located. So, but then when I looked at Sydney, I thought they have their own M62, but it's been within their own city, because it seems to be like this line that just, and I thought, oh, okay. It was quite, I learned a lot. But now I can learn a lot more by having this map that will kind of just give me context to what I'm learning and what I've learned. And hopefully other people can learn from it as well, because it's been a great exercise for me.
Of course, you mentioned that map because, like I was saying, when I said that in the intro there, how there's so many teams in Sydney, there are about 7 teams in different parts of the city. Because when I was learning of different team names, like when you talk about Super League, when you hear Hull, you hear Toronto, these are different cities, these are different places. They're not all in the same. They're not all just different neighborhoods or different districts in one city. We assume different cities.
And then the other thing I learned is that there are 2 teams that play in 2 different locations.
Yes.
So the West Tigers and St. George, they actually play in 2 different locations. That's why there's 2 of each in the map. And I'm like, I've never seen this before. And it was obviously, I guess, because they merged together, so they want to make sure that both fan bases are. But it was just really radical. I'm like, 2 stadiums? That's just crazy. I've never seen that before in any other sport, but no. So those unique things I found out just because I did the map. These little quirks thing. That was quite an interesting thing, and so on.
And then of course, of course, you have the one team that's in Australia. You have New Zealand Warriors, which I find fascinating because they're all watching the broadcast, and you never see them referred to as New Zealand. They're always called only Warriors. And even technically the name is the Vodafone Warriors. And no one calls them that, which I thought would be fascinating even more as to how their name changes and they're in a different country, in New Zealand.
I must admit, New Zealand were one of the teams that when I was doing the 8 weeks of watching games, they were one of the teams that I really enjoyed watching. They just seemed to be very powerful and just seemed to be like bulldozers, just really having those players that can play that. It was really enjoyable. Why I didn't go for them, I don't know, but it was just one thing I remember, that almost all the games that people recommended that I watched just had this characteristic of the team of just being so powerful. And but no, it's been great. Some games like today, it was Titans and West Tigers. Oh my God, it's crazy.
Probably a great game.
The other thing I learned, this is the crazy thing. So before, honestly, this is, I don't know, I want to know what you think. So before each game that is played, the day before, I like to look back at the last time these teams played each other. Okay. So I was looking back at Titans and West Tigers 2019. And I was scrolling down because on the NRL website, you can actually pick by team. So you go to NRL TV and then you pick the season you want. And if you're looking for a specific team, you just drop down and you can see literally every game they played, either the full game or extend or just highlights. And I was scrolling down. I could only find one game. Like, there must be two. I was scrolling down. No, definitely only one. So I spoke to my Australian friend. I said, is that what's going on? Did something happen last year? And he said, no. Apparently, some teams only play another team once in the year and others 3 times in the year. Like, I'm kind of used to where you play home and away with the same team. Like, so at least you play I know you can play 2-3 times, but at least you play them twice, one at home and one at away. So when I was looking into it, it's actually quite common, it seems, that sometimes you are playing one team once for the whole season, but then you're playing another team 3 times in the same season. I'm thinking, how is that fair? Because if you're the unlucky team playing, say, the Roosters, for example, 3 times, and you're not such a strong team, it's a bit unfair if you have like a stronger team. And then, but yet, it just was, if someone can tell me how this works, can you figure it out? Because I definitely couldn't. I
know it's a very unbalanced schedule, and we're so used to having the balanced schedule in Super League or even in hockey, in basketball, where you do have the balance of home and away. I couldn't imagine how that would go over in, say, the NBA, where you have, okay, Toronto is playing the Knicks 3 times, but they're only going to play Philadelphia once. It would be insane to think about that here. But
so I'm sure some of your listeners will be able to tell us why this. It's probably a TV thing, but I just don't know how it's fair on the competition.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think
the lower teams. I don't know if I've got no idea, but yeah, so I'm sure somebody will tell us, enlighten us with this information. But yeah, that was an interesting thing I learned last night.
I know, and you know what I found interesting is that this is a league that one thing I've always thought very interesting about NRL was the culture around the game when it comes to how it's presented. And I watched the Matty John show, and I don't think any other show like that in sports where it's post-game, it's interviews, and then there's comedic skits in the middle of a post-game show. I thought that's interesting. I don't know many of the leagues that really do that in their post-game and pre-game shows. Do
you like it? That's the thing. Did you like it?
It is different.
It's definitely interesting. It'd be interesting to have something here like that. I don't know if it would work out. But one thing I do like is I think the NRL do know how to. I don't know if it's the NRL or the TV. I don't know how it works in terms of the advertising and coming up with the commercials and stuff. I don't know who's in charge, but whoever is in charge of the marketing side and the visualization of it, I'm really impressed. So, for example, if you are watching a highlights game on NRL TV, you get like 15 seconds of some sort of like promo. It's a really good promo of just really building up to the game that you're about to watch. So I think a lot of the teams in the NRL are very good on the visual side when it comes to social media. I've been very impressed. Obviously, some do a slightly better or a little bit more creative, but overall, I'm very, very impressed at the level of artistic flair that they have on Twitter, for example. What do you think?
Yeah, they do a very good job in marketing. And you see what they do with Fox. And that is a well-done production team. And that's what really gets you into wanting to watch. Because it's not just a matter of just watching a game. You need the hook of, why do I want to care about South Sydney and Charles Mitchell signing with the Rabbitohs? Why do I want to care about Mitchell Moses? What's the appeal? And they make you want to watch and see storylines week in, week out on Fox.
Yeah, because when you're new, like you and I are, to the NRL, some of these things on their own aren't appealing because you don't know the importance of something like that. But they just know how to make is that you actually want to know, what is this about? And you end up watching it. So they are very good at that. But let's get to the most important topic, cardboard cutouts. Come on. How great are they? Come on. I hope we're getting some sort of commission for this. Hey, John
Right?
Pallet, I hope you're getting some commission on these because I'm telling you.
You know, the
How
Wolfpack is
brilliant are they, though?
I love it. I love the fact that NRL has fully embraced cardboard cutout fans, encourage people to send in their own pictures to be in stadiums. It's just funny to see how I also think it's kind of like a wink and a nudge to the whole I think it might be a nudge to the whole Toronto has cardboard cutout fans. Let's play some. Let's make it our own thing down there.
No, I think it's brilliant, and you know, people put their dogs, their cats. It's like gonna be the animal kingdom. It's just brilliant. I'm sure there'll be like some weird animal there, but it's been a lot of fun. I know a lot of Wolfpack fans, including myself, have bought a cardboard cutout. So you know, I can't wait to see the John and Annie and Nicholas was on today. And it was a lot of fun. It's just kind of like let's play Where's Waldo. You forget watching the game, and you're like trying to look out for yourself. But what makes it work though is the commentators. They actually are embracing the cardboard cutouts as part of their conversation. So for example, if something bad happens, they'll put the camera on a cardboard cutout where he's going, and he just goes with it. Or one of the commentators said, "Oh, I hope the such and such team don't walk away now," as if the fans could walk away. So engaging with the fact that there are cardboard cutouts into your discussions through the game, etc., I think it makes it work even more.
I love it. I think it's better than just having a sea of empty stands. It adds to just another talking point, and I think I will be sending in a picture myself for the next round for Sydney. I will send a shot myself. Maybe I'll put my cat in there as well too.
Yeah, it seems like the more radical your picture, the more likely, just I don't know. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's great that Wolfpack fans in Canada and the UK have decided to take part and have a little bit of fun. I think it's around £13 UK pounds, so it's not too bad. It's affordable. It's like I said, it's just a bit of fun. It's not to be taken seriously. But I don't know what's going to happen because it has rained yesterday or today, this morning. So it'll be interesting to see if the cardboard cutouts are blocked or they maintain. Yeah, I don't know if they actually protected them or not. So it'll be interesting to see what they're like.
I know we were talking during the Raiders Knights game because it was a game in which we had a late game fight breakout, and you're talking to me. Does it feel different having a fight or having the biff as it's called when there's no fans there? It almost felt like it was a fight in a TV studio, because when the atmosphere changes when you have a fight with the crowd there, and it was almost a sense you saw players. Yeah, there was animosity. It was a tough game, but there was almost a sense of from the players. Do we really want to fight when there's no one here? I felt in a sense.
Yeah, it was because I was speaking to my husband this morning or yesterday, and we were having this conversation about do the fights, because obviously there's no fans and the sounds of the fans are only on a production level. It's not actually in the stadium, so it's just for the televised viewers. And there's not been any arguments. Like I said, I've watched a lot of games, and usually there's tension. There's a bit of fighting or shoulder pushing or whatever, and you kind of can feel the tension on TV. And we were wondering, so we've watched almost 2 full rounds, and before the game we were talking about, there was none of that tension as such. And we were asking, is it the fans being there that creates it to the players, and therefore you get more when the fans aren't there? I think, for example, today's game, would the argument and the fighting been longer or happened more times because it was so close? So the question is, do the fans actually give the players the kind of hype to kind of want to fight, or you know what I mean? It's unusual. Yeah, it's just been too, like, it seems like it's been more training in a way, like they just play and the normal things you see in live sport wasn't there. Does that make sense?
It does, because athletes, players have told me before that they feed off the crowd, they feed off the energy, and you're still seeing try celebrations, you're still seeing players being happy, but it feels a little bit muted knowing that there's no one there beyond the Fox production team on field side or field level.
One thing I have liked watching is, even though there's no one there, the referee still explains why the decision is one way or another, which I really like. I had to think back. Do they do that here in Super League? And I don't think they do. So the fans never realize why it's gone against them or whatever. But I really like that, where they explain, right, it's a no try or it's a penalty, and they say, right, it's because X, Y, Z. I really like that. What about you? Do you like that little extra thing?
I like that, because you're going to have, I think, because also too, you're going to have new fans who won't automatically know why there was a penalty or why this tried was disallowed. So I think, especially now when you're trying to get a newer audience, especially ones who are new to rugby league, you got to explain things that the person who knows the game might say, I already know that, but it's time to you have to over-explain, because there's someone who might be watching their first game ever and might not understand what happened. You don't want to alienate the newcomers at all.
Yeah, I have liked seeing ladies being part of the game. So as a linesman, I really like that. This new, I'm gonna say this wrong, the new six rule thing that they brought in. Yeah. So I've really enjoyed. I had no idea what it was. I just started watching the game, and I'm thinking, is this on fast forward? Because it really felt like it was on fast forward. And I was speaking to someone who's in Toronto, in Australia, and I said, what is the sixth rule? He says, well, that's why it's faster, because they've taken this out and it's just made the game faster. And I thought, I would love to see that in the Super League. But the thing is, would the players cope with it? Because you're constantly just playing in a way.
That's right.
They don't have that break. Like, as you can see, my terminology is not very good, but you know what I mean? It's just, so having the sixth rule, it just means we're constantly, and I love that. I mean, that's why I was attracted to rugby league in the first place, because as opposed to NFL, where for me it's 2 stop and start, rugby league is just continuous. Obviously, you have some stop moments, but seeing how they play in Australia with this new rule, I really like it. But I don't know if in Super League they can cope or not, because I don't know how much more physical it is in terms of your endurance to play. What do you think?
Right.
Have you liked it?
I've liked it a lot. I like the fact that, it is a much faster game now. But I think if Super League were to adopt that, I think they would rather do it in 2021 than tell the players, okay, now we're adding a new rule that's made this game 5 times faster now in the middle of your season, which is the case in NRL, because you're seeing players trying to adapt to a new rule, which is radical mid-season, and you're seeing some teams able to handle it, and some teams struggle, which is why you're getting so many games now where you're having teams winning by 25, 30 points, and you're seeing teams putting up 50 points on some games here in round 3 and round 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I'm still learning quite a lot, but I've really enjoyed it. And it's kind of really reminded me why I love rugby league, because it's been such a break and it's been an abrupt. It's actually made me more wanting Super League to come back, and having been lucky to go to the Wolfpack's game against Huddersfield for the Challenge Cup. And obviously we won that game. It was a nice way to still have,
Yes.
They played so well that, they really played well. And it was my friend's birthday. So we had a nice group of friends there. And it was a great game. The fans were nice. And it was nice to finish, I guess, the season, even though it's going to restart, with that game. And then obviously with the NRL, watching it, you're like, I want to be back. I really want to be back.
And it's funny because it's funny watching Super League, because for those of you who don't know, Sandy and the Canadians are on camera for almost every single Wolfpack game. The camera always finds you on Sky.
I don't know why. I really, it's just, I'm just one of, and you've met me in person a few times, and I am just a naturally hyped person when it comes to sport. Anyone who's come with me to a Blue Jays game or anything like that, if the Blue Jays score a home run or something, I am up on my feet and screaming like we won the World Series. I mean, I'm just like that, and I think that's a great thing about sports. It should be about just embracing the fun moment that you're going through and having great friends with you. And I don't care if I'm very loud or I annoy somebody next to me who's from the other team or whatever. It's just a great moment. And I think I just can't wait for it to be back. So having a team to cheer for in the NRL, even though I don't have an emotional connection to the team, I've got a team that I could, cheer for or concentrate on. But what I am doing is every game that is being played, I am picking a team because it's a lot more fun to have a team to cheer for, even though I'm a neutral. So I'm either going for a team that is the opposite of a friend, so that I can cheer against them. So, or sometimes, Ricky Lutelli, obviously the Cronulla fan, and they didn't have a great game last week. So I said to Ricky, I'm going to cheer for the Sharks today. So give you some moral support, just to and then other teams, I said, well, I want Manly to win because I want Panthers to stay on top. So it just brings a little element as a new fan of just really having a purpose for every game you're watching.
Yeah, I agree. Like, as someone who picks up Sydney, I'm still very much on the Warriors because I just love seeing a team who was on the road, away from their own country. Seeing them get a win over the Dragons was great. That's a team where I really want to see them do well. Playing away from home, I think that's a team a lot of people want to see do well this season.
Yeah, obviously what the Warriors have done is similar to what Toronto did in the first two seasons, being away from home for 8 weeks or whatever. And I really hope that the situation in Australia doesn't go that far that they won't be able to travel. Obviously they've been able to contain the pandemic. But obviously with social media, hopefully the players, it helps, having FaceTime and so on with their families. But it's a huge sacrifice. And seeing the people, the communities where the teams are based, really embracing the team and welcoming them, I think it really just adds to the rugby league family of, you know what, we understand the sacrifices so we can all play. Because if the Warriors said, no, we don't, then would there, do you know what I mean? So I think appreciating what they're doing is a great thing. And like I said, Toronto have done it. For the first two seasons they did that. Obviously last year was slightly different. They did 2-3 weeks at a time, but it's still a sacrifice, And yeah, so hopefully it's just, it's going to all go and then they can kind of go back to normal. But no, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
It has been. And of course with the Wolfpack, I know hopefully we can have games in Toronto again by October to end the year at least. That's the hope. I know there's been talk of possibly getting fans back into Lamport Stadium. I know NRL has said they're going to try and get fans back in, sitting only in the suites for round 5 going forward. So we'll see what happens if Super League could maybe copy that.
The rich people then. How many no fan will go there? Yeah, does that mean? So I don't know about the Toronto. It's very difficult because your hands, the Wolfpack hands are tied.
Right.
And what's unfortunate is that they're a new team where your Maple Leafs and your Blue Jays, they're established and they could, I guess, just ride the wave and see how it goes. Obviously, NBA is going to restart, but it's in Disneyland. You think they're going to do the roller coasters in between? You think they're going to go on the roller coasters in between? Sorry, I'm not playing today. I'm going to go on the roller coaster, So it's that kind of surreal thing. They're playing in Disney. I wonder, my husband's saying, I wonder if the documentary of Michael Jordan gave him an idea to play there. Oh, maybe she's Disney as a location to play. But no, so the thing is, yeah, having gone to the final in October,
right,
and seeing what the crowd was like, and really the anticipation of Super League being at Lamport, finally, we get to see what the reward is and all that kind of emotions. And I saw people crying and laughing. It was such a great day. And the build-up with Sonny Bill and him really wanting to go and see the fans. I've been lucky to meet him a couple of times after games and before. And I asked him, what are you most looking forward to going to Toronto, etc. So, and he was such a genuine. His answer was so genuine that he really has heard so many great things about the fans at Lamport and the city. He really wants to show it with his family, And I was so excited, to really say, do you know what, you guys enjoy the moment. And then this happened, and it really broke my heart.
Because from everything I saw with Sonny Bill, he truly wanted to come to Toronto. And what struck me about him as a person was I saw the media day, and I heard that he sat with every single reporter until they got what they wanted. He was there for a good 2 hours talking to every single reporter. Like, that's really what kind of person he is, that he would do that. And seeing everything, it's just tough, because I know, like, when he comes to Toronto, he is someone where they're going to take him. They were taking the Blue Jays games, 2 Raptors games, maybe to Wonderland.
Sonny Bill. Can you imagine Sonny Bill doing the opening pitch? Yeah, so we don't have to put a bet on how accurate he would get that. But knowing Sonny Bill, he'll probably go, I need to practice just before to make sure I get it right. Because you don't want to do like some of these celebrities when they've done it. Yeah. It's just gone completely wrong. It's like gone that way or that way. And so it's, so he'll probably say, I'd want to practice just before I do it.
Funny? I remember it was last year when Blake Wallace did it, and I saw him and John Pallett on field throwing the ball around. And this goes to show how the Brits and the Australians are with being guys who know cricket. They were just with no glove on. Like, that's just cricket culture. Like, they didn't need a glove to throw the ball around beforehand. I thought, yeah, you guys played a lot of cricket growing up, didn't you?
But talking about Blake, we have to talk about his fundraiser. I mean, this guy, Australian, obviously lives here in the UK and obviously in Toronto at times, is doing an amazing fundraiser for the Canadian healthcare system. I mean,
yes,
he's really, if you want to show somebody or you want to demonstrate how somebody's really embraced a second home, a new, a country as a home like he has. I mean, doing this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really proud of this individual who has taken Canada and Toronto as an alternative home to him. I think it's remarkable. I couldn't even do one of those. So for those who don't know, he's done, is it every 4 hours, he was doing 14 kilometers or something? Or 7 kilometers every 4 hours. And the last 2, he merged them into one. So he did 15K in the last run, and it was every 4 hours. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So Blake, thank you so much. I think it's brilliant. So yeah, you couldn't be more proud of an individual like that to represent the team in the city.
No, of course. And you've seen guys like Blake, Andrew Dixon, Josh McCrone, guys who truly embrace Toronto and say, you know what, we want to be part of this community. We want to give back to our fans. We don't just want to be Toronto name. We actually want to embrace the city and the country, Canada as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, when I did the quiz 3 weeks ago, so I was really missing the fans, going to the games, either here in the UK or even engaging with fans from back home who I've gone to know and become really good friends. And because there was so much negativity on the news, there's a lot of things there's a lot of anxiety and so on. I thought, it was something like 10 p.m. at night or something, or over a cup of coffee. I thought, I'm going to do a quiz because I really want to engage. I want to talk to my friends about
Yes.
rugby league, but have a purpose of it, if that makes any sense, not just random talk. So I contacted some of the players, and I contacted the management, so David, etc. And I said, look, I'm going to do a little quiz. And I mean, little in my head is like maybe 20 people will want to do it. But I didn't want to do your typical quiz, as in, you know, who won this championship, or who did. I want it to be a little bit different, because you and I and every other fan will know the player as the player, you know, for the Wolfpack or ex-NRL player or whatever it is, or you know Bob Hunter because he's now this role in Toronto. You just know them for what they are. But actually, it's always fascinating to know a little bit about them as a person.
Of course.
So the quiz was very much about, let's get to know the person behind the role that they play within Toronto. So I thought no one's going to say yes, because it's a bit like too personal. But you know what? The players were more than happy to be part of it. I found a lot of interesting. It was so funny. You know, the videos were great. And then, you know, Bob Hunter, David Argyle, they really did embrace Brian McDermott. They all did embrace answering these questions, so that the fans got to know a little bit more about them, and not just as the owner of Toronto or the CEO or the coach. You know, they didn't have to, because I'm just a fan. And I thought, you know, they didn't have to, but they did. And I think, how many sports in North America do you have where they allow a fan who is within the organization to ask them questions and to actually take part?
Yeah,
I think for me, it was very surreal moments. It was a lot of fun, and I hope the fans enjoyed it. But it made me realize how much I missed everybody, and how many became really good friends. And I'm sure you've had that experience as well when you've been at Lamport. It's just really a unique experience.
Of course, I've enjoyed it. I've been treated very well by John and Eric, the entire team over there, and it just feels different when I go to a game at Lamport. Either just being watching game or talking to players afterwards, and it's just like, it is a very welcoming environment, and they get that. They don't want to shut people out. They don't want to trim people away. They're here to embrace the community. They're here to embrace Canada. Like, I cannot imagine any other team in Toronto saying, hey, when you're done doing your interviews, come hang out with us in the beer gardens. Like, what other team would do that?
Yeah. When I asked the players what's their one thing they miss about Toronto, and almost all of them said they love cycling on King Street and just going through. Like, they absolutely love that, either cycling to training or cycling on a Sunday morning. And that for me shows how much they've really embraced the city.
Yeah.
Because they just love that aspect that is very simple to the common Torontonian. You know, we've got it there, is a cycle. But they actually really love it. It's something simple, but it's really part of just normal people who live there. So I was really impressed that they didn't miss a particular restaurant. It was the simple things of, I miss cycling around the city.
I love. You know what I'm sure they missed too? Hitting the streetcars on penalty kicks.
yeah. It's I mean, obviously so when obviously they've been playing here, I think they played 6 games, and we've had a few Canadians fly over. So there's only a handful of Canadians who did fly over this season. Obviously, we didn't know what was going to happen, but so they, with my other expats here, etc., we were always shouting, hit the streetcar. And you see these British fans going, what is that? Like, it was just because it wasn't just me. If I just shouted, hit the streetcar, they're like, oh my gosh, she's a crazy lady. But when you got other ones around you and you start shouting, it's so much better. You feel like it's not just me, you know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how Super League are going to come back, you know, how much time they're going to allow players to kind of get back, like a preseason. It's going to be very interesting, because I don't think nothing's set in stone. I think the most popular is to finish in November or something. So
right, I saw that.
January or something, or so I thought, oh, can you imagine playing in Toronto in December? Oh, I don't think so. In a snowsuit, you know.
Like just knowing the Toronto climate, it's a place where you could have a mild winter or you could have -20. We don't know
what happened, though. That's what happened 2 years ago. You had the -42s that there was no New Year's Eve, you know, and then the next year, it's not too bad. It's cold, but it's not too bad in comparison. You know what I mean? Right. It's still cold, but still, it's not like before.
Like, it'll be interesting to see. Like, you know, what I do wish, unfortunately, you know what we did lose was that we did lose the Toronto-Australia match. That is something that I do hope we do bring back, if not next year, in 2022, because I did an article on it for The Roar, because I'm thinking, like, that could be one giant event. That could be a giant Fox and Sky event where you turn into a massive global event. The Wolfpack playing Australia in Toronto. Or you have BMO. That was the plan originally.
Yeah, it's I was so close to actually booking flights to that. I was gonna do what I did last year and fly in on a Friday and fly out on the Monday. I was gonna do the exact same thing, but thankfully I didn't, because I would have lost that flight. I've lost my flights. I was gonna go home again in July, like I always do. I haven't cancelled it because I've got to wait till the airline tells me it's cancelled. Because everything is closed, you know, I won't be able to go to, you know, Canada's Wonderland or anything like that. So it's a shame, because I like to go home and just, even though obviously with social media, you kind of see everything that's going on, you know, with your friends, your family, etc. Exactly. Just being in the environment is what I miss, you know, and it's my little fix of going back home. So hopefully it won't be too long, and there might be a flight at some point. But no, it's I'm just grateful that there is some rugby league actually happening, because I'm not really a German football fan. but they have taken the virtual voice, the cheering. They've actually started doing it this week, I think. Because I was watching it today, I'm thinking, oh, but they have the chanting. So they have fans chanting in the background, and it does make it so much more easier to watch. So I don't think our brains are that clever to realize it's not real. It just processes what it hears or something like that. So it does make it better to watch. Because if you watched the NRL round 2 when fans weren't allowed, it felt like an exhibition game. It felt like a training game. It just, because you can hear the echoes of the players talk, and it's just dead air, you know, it sounded weird. Then round 3, whoever came up with this idea of having this virtual sounds of fans, it really does make. Have you seen the comparison I did on Twitter, where one was round 2 and round 3? It just, for me, makes the game.
Oh yeah, no, it helps a lot having some audience of a virtual fan. You know, I felt in round 3 it was a bit too loud. It felt a little too exaggerated. I think you wouldn't have cheering at certain points. You know, a real crowd wouldn't cheer on certain points. I feel round 4 they got it better. They brought the cheering down during certain elements of games. So it sounds more realistic, because round 3, you wouldn't have full cheering the entire game. There'd be moments where the crowd would die down. Yeah. So round 4, I felt got that balance a lot better than round 3.
Yeah, it definitely is. So which game are you looking forward to watching with the Warriors? Like, what opponent do you want that you're really looking forward to?
What opponent? Ooh, you know what? I love a good upset. So I want to see what happens when they face a table team that they can pull off a miracle, and somehow they can somehow get back to teams like Parramatta.
Can you be Parramatta for us, please? Because we're up there. You see them come down. But the thing is, one thing I've been trying to learn is how to pronounce some of these teams, and you know, thinking, how do you pronounce that? Because like Rabbitoh, is it Rabbitohs? Like I wasn't. It's Rabbitohs, yeah. So I was like, because obviously I wasn't sure, so I had to like watch back and just make sure I pronounce it. Is it, you know, eels or L or whatever? So yeah, it's been interesting learning a little bit about the teams in that way, because I don't like to mispronounce teams.
Right.
So it's but you know, the Warriors, I think Panthers Warriors would be a good game. Panthers Melbourne Storm, I think that'll be a good game as well. Because Melbourne is one of those teams that, yes, I could have gone for them being because I think a lot of people say, why don't you go for an expansion team? Because Toronto are an expansion team.
Yes.
But for me, I don't know. There's no reason why I didn't go for it. It just, because if I went for that, then I'd have the Warriors as well. Then I have Melbourne Storm. I mean, there's two options, and I couldn't pick. So I ended up going completely on a different tangent of what's my favorite color. Because if you can't even wear your favorite color, you know, you won't wear it. Because I'm not a jersey wearing person as such. I mean, like, you know, some people, I'll wear Blue Jays jerseys a lot because it's more fitting, it's streamlined, it's just, you can kind of wear it. But for me, I find rugby league jerseys to be very, you know, there's a lot on it.
Yes, there are.
And there's advertising and so on. And some colors are really strong. So I ended up going for what I think I could wear that fits my style. And I know that sounds so superficial, but that's the only thing I can think of, because every team that I was watching, I think I watched an average of 10 games of each team throughout the 8 weeks. And they were all good in their own way, you know, and, you know, the Melbourne Storm, a lot of the exciting games I watched were from them. Then so were, you know, there were some great West Tiger games as well. So it was really, really difficult. But you know, I don't hate any team, and I will never be one of those fans that has a dislike to a team. I will just have more, you know, a kind of a soft spot for a particular team. But then I'll still support. I just want to watch good rugby league, just like you. I just want to watch a great game that shows new fans who aren't as involved as you and I in terms of watching as many as we can to really enjoy it. Because like today's game with Titans, if no one falls in love with rugby league by watching that game and the excitement it brought, you know, the comeback or whatever, what games could we talk about? You know, there are so many, but it's just highlighting those great games to new fans. That's what I think you and I need to do. And other rugby league fans who are following the sport already, it's telling people about these other games they should be watching. Because that's why I went to all these fans on Facebook from all these teams, and I said, look, I'm a new fan. I don't know much about our the NRL. You give me a list of games I should watch, because the NRL got so many online as opposed to Super League. There's not many, you know, for you to watch. So I've been giving people recommendations, and I watched them, and some of them I'm like, come on, if you do not like the sport after watching this game, what do you want from a sport? It's got drama, the speed, the physicality. I mean, honestly, what do you want? Unless you're a golf fan and that's all you like, or darts or something. But honestly, there are some amazing games that I think just needs to be reminded, you know, every week. Now that we've got live sports, let's push the highlight games to new people, because once you watch it online on TV, then you're more likely to go to a game. And I think that's where Super League, I really hope that somehow they help Toronto in allowing them to show the games as much as they can without a financial penalty or whatever it is, or a cost, because Super League can actually see, by letting Toronto show the game, say on CBC or somewhere where it's more affordable, either free TV or part of a sports subscription that is already there, as opposed to adding on an extra cost. I hope they see the benefit that the NRL are doing by allowing fans to watch it at no cost or a very low cost, so that because Toronto haven't been playing at Lamport, the momentum is somehow lost, I feel, because it's not on people's radars like other teams.
Exactly.
You know, the Raptors are back because looks like the season's going to restart. So because the Wolfpack have lost momentum from October, and obviously then Sonny Bill's signing, etc., I would really hope that Super League will kind of understand that by helping Toronto show the games in a better in an easier platform, more accessible platform, that it will encourage fans to, it will re-engage fans again. You know, it will kind of remind them why they love the sport. Because not every Wolfpack fan is like you or me and like Nicholas or whatever.
Right.
We're not all like that. But for those who aren't, let's re-engage, reignite those from October, you know, reminding them why the Wolfpack are an awesome team in the city and why they should continue. But also, it gives the opportunity for new fans to watch on TV so that when they do come back, they can go and watch them at Lamport. You know, it's a win-win for everybody. And I don't know how much it will happen. I don't want to sound negative, but I'm trying to be optimistic. Say yes, they will help, and kind of let go in a way of the, you know, the copyright or whatever, the rights to the game, and let Toronto really advertise it how they know they should do it or they need to do it to actually grow. Because by having rugby league in Canada and the US, you've got Ottawa next year. You've got a new fan base that you're trying to engage. So obviously the NRL are doing that. You know, bring in the Wolfpack as well, because that's a Canadian team. You know, there's an association that will pull them even more. So by having these two sports on Canadian TV that is easy to access, then how can it not grow the sport within North America? It's for me, it's a no-brainer. And even if the games aren't live, have the games on replay at a good time that fans could watch. So instead of a 3 a.m. game being televised, for example, as it is now, you know, obviously the UK is only 5 hours behind, so it should be easier for them to slot that game into a more reasonable time. So if the game's at 7, it'll be at 2 p.m.
Right.
So make sure that 2 p.m. game is then available later on, whether it's a 10 p.m. in case you don't record it. Have it again at a different time where people can watch it later. You know, it's trying to make it that there's no reason not to watch it.
No, I agree. Because you're.
Oh yeah, fingers crossed. We'll get there. And then,
I think we will.
Yeah. So it's So what are you gonna be doing this week? Are you gonna be preparing? You're gonna be watching more games? You're making some notes about this game?
I will, and I will be. I know for those who don't know yet, I'll be taping my podcast with Michael Carbone from Chasing Kangaroos. So it's interesting because one thing with having people on from down under is trying to line up the times to figure out when the afternoon is over there and when it's not early morning back in Canada. So I'm going to be taping with Michael at 2 p.m. over in Australia and 10 p.m. back in Canada. So it's not going to be too bad. It's not like I'm up at 3 in the morning teaming with somebody back in the afternoon in Australia.
Well, when I did the podcast, it was 2 weeks before they restarted the season. And we were trying to arrange a time as well. And I always forget how far. I'm like, is it 12 hours, 10 hours? Because there's a few time zones within Australia. Yeah, and it's like, okay, which time zone are you in? You know, but no, it is quite common. So we did ours, it was about 5 p.m. here, which is quite good. I think it was like 8 p.m. in Australia. So it's a bit easier, I think, than it is for you. So what time was your podcast then?
So it'll be for me, I'll be taping it'll be at 10 p.m. when I tape with Michael. And it'll be 2 for him, 2 p.m.
Yeah. It's
not too bad.
No, do you know what I've really enjoyed? So the podcast, the Six Again podcast in Australia, I really enjoy talking to Australian rugby league fans. I don't know. There's something about them. They're either as hyper as me, and therefore I feel like we're on the same wavelength. You know, the only thing I didn't like about the podcast is that the guys are a Detroit Red Wings fan.
Oh, with you?
Yeah, so I really had a problem with that. I said, do you know that jersey that's behind you? It needs to go. Yeah, so it didn't start off right. I'm like, you're supporting the wrong team, you know. I was like, but yeah, there's something that I've really loved talking to Australian rugby league fans or from New Zealand. They've been really like contacting me, asking, you know, do you want any information? Like, how'd you find it? They really are interested in knowing. Like, they're curious. I guess like over here, you know, British fans like, you like rugby league? Like, how are you into rugby league or whatever? It's like an alien concept. But the Australians are just very happy. The ones I've at least spoken to, either on Zoom or on FaceTime or even on conversation on social media, they generally are very happy people. And they really are passionate about the sport as a whole. And not, obviously, they all have their favorite teams, but they just have a love for, and they're optimistic. The ones at least I've been speaking to, which is quite nice and refreshing for me to speak to optimistic people. And, you know, one guy on Twitter said, oh, I hope you can do a map like that for North America when it gets bigger. I'm like, oh, I'll do one as well. I'd love to see a team in Boston, get the one that was in New York. Let's get that started. You know, let's get 8 teams there and start, you know, it'd be great in 10 years time if we can do that. But you can only do that if we can maximize Super League and the NRL at the moment, because for the last few years, I always hear fans here in the UK say things like, oh, we are the little brother to Union, or we don't have the exposure on TV because of football, or it's cricket. So there's always a reason why rugby league is not on the radar. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute, you can be on the radar now because there's not much how, you know. And obviously if the English league starts, if it finishes in August, which I think is when they're planning to finish, if Super League starts after that, look, you got another. So there's no reason not to maximize this opportunity of, let's get rugby league in everyone's forefront of their minds of being on TV.
Right.
You know, it's a great opportunity. If it doesn't happen now, it ain't gonna happen, because I don't want another pandemic. Thank you very much. No, thank you. I really don't need another one. One's enough. Thank you.
Right? No, but I think the timing right there, you have that timing right there to get in people's vision. And if you can have your grand final when it's supposed to be at November-ish, I've heard November 28th have the grand final. If you can get a good few million watching that, you'll be in a great place, especially if that can be on a Fox Sports 1 or also on a Sportsnet or a CBC. Yeah,
I definitely think it's timing and opportunity. If they plan it right and they do it right, there's no reason why rugby league can't increase its fan base. You just have to advertise it right. And one thing I have liked during the lockdown is that it's really upped the game of some Super League teams in terms of how they've used social media to engage with fans. I've seen, obviously, Warrington have always been good. You know, they've always had that. They're very good on social media. But I've seen other teams who've upped their game a little bit more, where I'm kind of reading more content from them than I probably did last year. Do you know what I mean? So it's been great though. You know, it felt like it took a pandemic for people to realize, oh, I need to communicate. And it could be anything. It could be with the players at home. It could be whatever. But to see that engagement and that happening, creating new content for their fans to interact with, I think it's great. I mean, I've been doing a little bit of TikToking, but it's been a bit of fun because, and I'll tell you one thing, everyone laughs about TikTok, but I'll tell you what, I've I become familiar with players in the NRL, in the games, based on who I've danced with on TikTok. So Toby, for example, he got long hair.
Yes.
And I'm like, I recognize that player. And my husband says, you've TikToked with him. I'm like, oh, I know. So because they don't have names in the back of their jerseys. And that is the most frustrating thing. As a new fan, they don't have the names in the jerseys. And the way I learn is by having obviously by having the name on the jersey, you can kind of follow them a little bit more. But because it's so fast and there's no names, literally the only players I recognize are the ones I've danced with on TikTok. It's just like, hey, but it works. And I just think it'll take me a long time to get to know other players. There's one player actually who plays for, oh my God, is it Titans, I think, who his brother plays in the NBA.
Oh, I know you're referring to him. Is
it Lee? Lee? He scored 2 or 3 times, twice today. Really tall guy. His brother is in the NBA.
Yes,
and I thought, how cool is that? So I now know him. Like I said, I think his name's Lee, but he'll always stick in my mind because there's something I can associate him to.
Right.
And he doesn't look like your typical player. He's not. And I thought that name sounded familiar. It didn't sound like an Australian name as such, if you know what I mean. Like it didn't sound either from. Exactly. So I was trying to figure out where he's from, or So I looked it up, and he said he's got a brother who plays in the NBA. So that was quite cool. Honestly, the things I'm learning has nothing to do with rugby league. I thought that's a quite cool thing to learn.
Great connection, and we know you made a really good point though on the fact one of my last points here before we wrap things up is that the NRL, Super League jerseys, there's names. Who's who by name and number. We see that. NRL, I've talked to Australians before. I've asked them, how come you guys are so rigid in having your no names and numbers must be to position? Because Super League doesn't do that. NRL is still very big on the no names on the back and names not position. Looking from a marketing perspective, I feel like NRL, you want to get people to know your players more, drop that, put names on the back of the jerseys, and then when they want. So let the players wear whatever they want. If you want to wear 20, 25, you don't have to wear 2, 3, or 4. That's my take on that.
I'm just thinking, do they not, would they not sell more jerseys if they personalize them or something?
I feel they would.
Because obviously, when Donaldson used to be in the Jays, his jerseys were selling like hotcakes. And they were selling way more because his name was on it. Exactly. So I don't know how Australians sell jerseys. If they had a star player and they had more, I guess, a North Americanized, jersey system in terms of names and so on, and how they sell, would they sell more? I don't know. I think, but it is very difficult for new fans to, I guess, engage with the team in a way, because I'm trying to figure out who does what. So for example, I'm not a sports fan that really remembers rules or stats or anything. I don't like sport for that. What I love sport is for the atmosphere and what it brings to watching the experience. So I'm still, so if people ask me and they say, oh, Toronto are getting this new player and he does this, I'm like, what does that mean? So what people say to me is, he is a Andy Ackers or he is a Josh McCrone. And by associating me to a player, it makes me understand what that player does, because I've watched Josh McCrone do what he does, or I've watched Andy Ackers do what he does. And that's how I learn about the sport, is by associating what they do on the pitch. And obviously the jersey number does help, but I don't think that'll happen in the NRL because it's just too fast. Way too fast. So maybe you'll be more, on top of everything when it comes to that. But yeah, I'm just gonna enjoy it, just like you. We just want to enjoy live sport, and it's a great league to actually be part of.
No, of course. It truly is. And you know what, Sandy? It's been a blast talking to you again. It's been a blast doing this.
It's
Hopefully.
been a long time. It's like almost
I
a year
know.
since we did the last podcast in July last year.
Yes.
Can't believe it. In your nice
I know.
studio.
And you know what? You know what? When the borders open up again, I want to come to England. I want to come down to a game in England. I want to come down because as someone who's been on TV over on Sky, it's funny getting messages now. It's funny getting messages from people over in England saying, "I saw you on TV. You're funny. You're cool." Like, wow.
You know what? When you come over, I'm gonna get some Timmy's, so it feels like we're back home. And you'll be sitting with me, and it's like, because that's, I love to go, if I can, get some Timmy's, got my Canadian friends with me. Even the British fans love, so like Gary, who lives in Leeds, him and his wife love Timbits and love a double-double. And they first experienced it at the games here. And then last year they went to Toronto for, they went to 2 games, I think, at Lamport, and then they went to New York as well. And they were going to Timmy's every day. They just wanted to. so it's just a little bit of fun, a little bit of home. So when you do come, I'll make sure you got all your home comforts, even though you're only away for 2 weeks. You'll have to do it. But you'll have to bring me some coffee crisp or Mirage back with you, though. That's the exchange. Well, it was great speaking to you again. Like I said, we obviously chat online quite a lot, but I always love talking to you. You're just as hyper as I am.
Thank you, Sandy.
And hopefully I'll see you on a Sky show again soon. I must admit, when I saw you, I'm like, I know him.
I think, like I said, that was just the coolest thing. And my cousins in England, they're more union people. But my dad told my cousins, hey, turn on Sky. Avery's going to be on this new show, Inside Super League. Make sure you guys watch him on this new TV show.
And they're like, why would he be on that? So like, oh, yeah. But you do always get excited and go, I know him. I met him. So you did a great job. You were really, really good.
Thank you.
So keep up the work that you're doing.
Thanks, Sandy. Of course.
And we'll catch up soon. I'm sure we will. Maybe halfway through the season, we'll catch up and see whose team is doing better.
Right?
And we'll definitely have to chat when both our teams are playing each other. We'll definitely have to have that conversation before and after.
Yes.
And maybe do a live Zoom while watching the game so I can maybe poke fun of you or something,
That would be fun.
But anyway, I'll speak to you later. And hopefully things are fine back home, and we'll catch up soon anyway.
We will.
All right. I'll speak